I always wanted to build my own empire instead of someone else's.
Welcome to another episode of the Play Big Faster podcast. I am so delighted to have Jon Ostenson on the pod with us today. Funny fact, while John and I were talking before we hit the record button, we both found out that we have something in common, and I'm going to let him tell you what it is. But today, he's also going to be talking a little bit more about non food franchising and giving us a peep into kind of what he does and his new book.
Yeah, Sherry, thanks for having me. And no, really neat to realize that I was born in your hometown of Flowood, Mississippi, and love the people in Mississippi. Great area. I've always had a lot of family there, and yeah, excited to be with you today.
Great. I thought it was really interesting just looking at what you do in terms of non food franchising, because a lot of people, when they think about franchises, they think about McDonald's, Starbucks, and these huge chains. How is your focus on non food franchising a little bit different? And tell us a little bit about how you got there.
Yeah, I'll start out by saying we've got nothing against the food guys. We need them, we support them. But my humble belief is that for most people, there are easier ways to make money and that require maybe less capital, less employees, less operating hours, less susceptible to consumer whims, just easier ways to make money. So my background, like you and many others, I spent many years in the corporate world and had a great run, but always wanted to build my own empire instead of someone else's. And it was about 8, 9 years ago that I started feeling out different opportunities, and luckily was very blessed to step in as president of Shelf Genie franchise system, large national franchise system, and I got to run our home office and support our franchisees day in and day out. And for me, I saw how all these diverse backgrounds came together under a shared system and ran successful businesses. Oftentimes they were first-time entrepreneurs, and really fell in love with the franchise model. And long story short, I spun off and eventually and invested in franchises myself as a multi-brand franchisee, and I've got good people running those today. And so I've been on both sides of the table, the franchisor and the franchisee side, but get to spend most of my time these days helping others get plugged into franchising and in all these different industries outside of food. And I just absolutely love working with clients all across the country and helping them oftentimes become business owners for the first time.
And speaking of being a business owner, you have been recognized as an Inc. 5000 company. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and your transition to the CEO of FranBridge Consulting.
Yeah, no, again, very blessed to just figure out what it takes to help people. It's entirely free to work with us. Our clients don't pay us anything. We simply get a referral fee on the back end from the brands, and none of that's passed on to our clients. So you can think of me as a real estate broker, but for franchises. And we work with over 600 different companies and really have just had a lot of success. And that's what has allowed us to grow into a multi-million-dollar business. And yeah, get recognized pretty high up on the Inc. 5000. That was something that we're very proud of. And we're proud of what it represents, that we've been able to help quite a few people step into business ownership. Yeah, it's a testimony to our clients and to our team.
Now, at the pod, we have so many people that are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and people that are aspiring business owners. And I think sometimes if you're not very knowledgeable about what it takes to start a franchise, you think that I'm going to have to start from scratch. What are some of the benefits in terms of franchising versus starting from scratch that aspiring business owners and people that, may have a shingle right now, how transitioning to franchising can actually enhance what they're doing?
Yeah, I'll start by saying if franchising is not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be a business owner, right? You know how much hard work goes into it. And franchising is the same thing. But with franchising, you do have a couple of things going for you. One, it's a proven system. There's product market fit that's been proven out in other markets before. So you're not guessing at can this work, but you know that it can work if you go out and work hard and execute it. With franchising, you've got a franchisor on that sidelines that's supporting you. They've got a team that's built in. The better you do, the better they perform. And just like any industry, you're going to have great players and then you're going to have some that are not as strong. So that's where we come in to help our clients identify the top franchises from a support standpoint. But in addition to that, you've got all these other franchisees within the system that are living the same thing you are day in, day out in their markets. And so you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself, to be cliche. And you've got a community and you're exchanging best practices and learnings. Obviously, you can buy in bulk, whether it be for goods or services. That's a benefit of being able to be bigger, have a bigger presence out there in the supply chain, let's say. But you're also day one, you have a technology stack that you're stepping into. You don't have to piece together the different systems. You've got large marketing data analytics that have been taken from other markets, so you're able to be more optimized on day one. So there's all these little intangible benefits that go with it beyond just the brand. We always think of the brand being so important. It is in food and it is in hotels. In the $50 billion insulation industry, let's say, how important is brand? It's a little less important. Most people can't name a brand in that space, but it's all the other attributes and the support that goes into it. So franchising is not right for everyone. Some people are too entrepreneurial. They don't want to follow the rules. They want to put their thumbprint all over it. But my humble belief is that for most people, franchising is a better path to business ownership.
And that is so interesting because you do have people that kind of want their own spin on things or they want their name out there on the moniker. But now, if I'm a person who's looking for a maybe semi passive investment versus something that's totally passive, how do you kind of filter those folks? Because I know with some franchise models, and I know you do non food, you have franchises like Chick-fil-A where you actually have to go work in the business. How do you help people determine which model is best for them? How long does that process take?
About half of our clients go with the owner-operator model where they jump in day one, they're running the business, usually with the goal of replacing themselves over time. The other half start day one with a manager in place that's running the business. They're managing the manager. In franchising, they call it semi-passive, they call it semi-absentee, executive model. You'll hear all these terms. I like to call it semi-involved because, again, there's going to be a level of involvement. It's not going to be passive if you invested your money in it, right? So you'll still be involved in. So much of the success comes down to having a good operator in place. If you don't have a good operator, you're going to have some headaches. You're going to find yourself leaning in. But if you do have a good operator, when you combine that with a strong franchisor on the sidelines supporting them, they can carry a lot of that daily support water for you, allow you to keep focused on your other business or your W-2 job, let's say. So it does make it very doable. When we engage with clients, to your question on the timeline, we get to know them, and then we come back to them with, hey, here are the top 10 or 12 opportunities that are available in your market. If I were in your shoes, given what you've told me and what we're seeing out there, here are the ones we'd want to be considering. They'll narrow it down to 3 or 4 to have a conversation with. We hold their hand all through the discovery process. I'd say if we start the clock from when they have that first call with the franchisor till they're at the point of signing that franchise agreement, on average, you're probably somewhere around 45 to 60 days. The great thing about franchising is you go in eyes wide open. You have all this information. You get the franchise disclosure document, which is called the FDD, where you get all this historical information. You get to talk to other franchisees in their system and hear about their experience and ask them questions. Again, will there be unknowns? Will there be surprises? Absolutely. That goes with business ownership. But at least you go in with a lot more questions answered than if you were just starting a business from scratch.
And I love the thought of having a consultant to hold my hand during the process because there's so much that you can discover when you have someone who has actually gone through the process and they're knowledgeable. But there's also so much you can learn just from, the mistakes that other people have made. So, what would you say are some of the maybe common mistakes or misconceptions that entrepreneurs have coming into the process?
Yeah, I'd say I hit on this already, but it still takes work just because a lot of things are in place. It allows you to start on third base instead of first base. That's the benefit of franchising, but it still takes work. It still takes putting the right people out there on the team, incentivizing them the right way. So I don't want to ever sugarcoat it and make it sound like it's easy. It still takes work. It's not totally passive. One thing, and this goes back to when I was a franchisor, and I'm looking at 100 franchisees across the US, and they're all running the same system, but obviously some are performing better than others. It sounds cliche, but our top performers were the ones that followed the system the closest. And that's so true. There's a reason why you're getting into franchising. So if you're the kind of person that always thinks you're the smartest person in the room, no matter what room you're in, franchising is probably not right for you. You want to come in, have that humility and say, hey, I'm going to go execute against the system. And yeah, can I be innovative and try new things here and there? Absolutely. But at the core of it, you want to follow the system. So I'd say that plus just being good with people, which is business 101, those are the two key characteristics of someone that could excel in franchising.
That is so good. Now, one thing that I know a lot of people will probably want to understand are the numbers. And I know this is kind of different depending on the franchise model that you choose, but what sort of initial investment, revenue potential, and ROI timelines should someone just expect? And we're not holding you to hard numbers, but going into this, you can't start with $0. What, should entrepreneurs plan for if they are considering franchising?
Yeah, I'd say starting out, if your questioning is now the time to explore franchising or not, I'd say if your net worth, assets minus liabilities, is below 100,000, it's probably not the right time. I'd say let's build up the reserves a little more. We don't want you to be too stretched stepping in. So most franchises will have a minimum requirement around that net worth, and for some it's 100,000 or 150,000. Certainly there's some that are more like $1 million, but I'd say most of them are in that 200, 300,000 ballpark. So once you're at that level, then what are your financing options? Investment wise, I just had clients buy 10 trampoline parks the other day at $3.5 million each. That's a big investment. Most people are not doing that much. I'd say most, when you look at the franchise fee and the startup cost and working capital, your all-in investment, you're probably 150,000 to 300,000, somewhere in that ballpark. Most people are not paying all cash for that. Instead, they're using what's called an SBA loan from a bank, and we've got partners that help our clients with this. In that case, you're typically putting in maybe 50,000 of cash and then using a loan to fund the rest. Obviously, banks prefer lending to franchises over startups. We usually don't have any challenges getting those loans for our clients. Some people will use an old retirement plan. So it has to be from a previous employer, but you can take that 401k, roll it over through what's called the ROBS program, and purchase the business with that retirement plan. You have to set up the business as a C corporation. You pay yourself a salary then from the cash flow. There's a few stipulations to it, but allows you to avoid the tax implications. Certainly some people will use HELOCs or other means to fund it, but yeah, I'd say just ballpark wise, again, investment wise, you're probably 150 to 300,000, but that can be partially offset by a loan. And I'd say net worth, you probably need to be in that 100,000, 150,000 ballpark to make it make sense at this stage. From the fun part, how much can you make? It is across the board, as you would imagine, across these different industries. I'd say it is eye-opening to people oftentimes how much you can make, because you're doing three things. It's what I call the trifecta. You're building cash flows, you're building an asset that one day you'll be able to sell, but you're also getting tax benefits that as a W-2 employee you just don't get. The tax code was written in favor of business owners because they want to incentivize you to create jobs and start new ventures. So there's so many tax codes that can be an added benefit. From a simple number standpoint, a lot of the opportunities, if you were to go on the smaller end, your revenues at the end of, let's say, year 1 or 2, you could be somewhere in that 400,000 to 800,000 ballpark. And we have some clients that will hit $1 million in their first year. That's not too uncommon, but I'd say in a lot of businesses, probably 400,000 to 800,000, and you're probably kicking off somewhere in the neighborhood maybe of 20% to the bottom line. You do the math there, again, maybe a little over 100,000 run rate on the bottom line. Certainly you can then scale from there and open additional locations and additional territories. And so I'd say the role that the owner plays in the business dictates part of that ramp up time, because no one's ever going to run the business like the guy with a skin in the game. And so you can ramp up faster usually if the owner is involved in it. But happy to get into different industries that I can use as an example as well if you like.
John, you are reading my mind. No, seriously, because the thing that I was thinking about as you were in some of these points is that I'm sure that there are industry trends or emerging franchise categories that are showing more promise than not for entrepreneurs. So if I'm someone, this is the first quarter of 2025 as we're recording this. So if I'm someone who's looking to franchise, is this a hot time to do it right now? Or the categories that I may want to consider?
Yeah, I've never seen more interest in business ownership. And I think franchising, people are starting to realize it's so much more than fast food. There are all these other industries, and there's a lot of optimism in the country, just economic wise right now. So we're seeing a lot of people, and some corporate refugees, they're tired of working for the man. We've got others that are existing business owners. They're saying, let's expand. But no, it's across a number of industries. I'd say the general theme is, what are businesses that will do well regardless of the economy, that are understandable, cash flowing, non-trendy, in some cases maybe non-sexy, just stable businesses. And these are things like home and property services, categories like health and wellness, categories like kids, pets, seniors. Think about kind of those macro shifts, like where are people always going to be spending money? It's always on the things they care about, right? Their kids, their pets, their aging parents, their health, their homes. So everything from home and property services, that could be flooring and roofing, to kitchen remodeling. There's so many different niches. I personally have a asphalt paving and line striping business franchise. Parking lots. So again, something you don't usually think about. I've got another one that provides temporary walls, like containment walls around renovation projects and construction sites, dumpsters, things that are, again, non-sexy, but they're needed businesses. Health and wellness, it could be boutique fitness, or we just had a client that bought a business that has multiple recovery modalities under one roof. So it's infrared sauna, cold plunge, red light therapy, cryo, all under one roof. So a lot of interest in anything health related. Youth, it could be kids tutoring, youth soccer. We've done a lot, have clients do very well in the youth soccer space. Pets, pet grooming, pet boarding. The senior space, I placed probably a dozen clients last year in home health, companion care for seniors. And there's so many businesses that can be tag-ons to that. Think wheelchair ramps and stair lifts and bathroom retrofitting, helping people age in place, which is obviously a huge macro trend, if you will, of the aging population. What I love doing is exposing clients to all these different types of businesses that oftentimes they would never have thought of on their own. And that's where the magic starts happening. And they look at their spouse and say, I never thought I'd be in XYZ, but that can make a lot of sense. And I see a need in the industry, and it's a way to get back to my community. Yeah, love taking clients through the process.
The small business landscape has really changed a lot post-pandemic. Do you see any shifts in the way that people are considering franchises post-pandemic versus some of the opportunities that were available prior to the pandemic?
I continue to see more and more companies jumping in and saying, hey, franchising is a good way to scale our business. I think they're realizing, hey, I may be in this unique little niche of an industry. I never thought about franchising, but it can make a lot of sense to scale your business that way. If you've got a good model that's been proven out and you're open to building a team to support those franchisees. So I'd say that's one thing. Private equity loves franchising, so we do see a lot of big money coming in. But just so many. So I'm in my mid 40s. I'd say we worked with clients of all ages, but quite a few people in that 40s, 50s dynamic where they say, gosh, I've been working for the man for 25 years. I've had several of these calls already this morning where they had done very well, but they said, I don't want to go interview for someone else. Maybe I've got a little gray in my hair and I don't have the fire in the belly to go work for someone else. I want to build my own thing. Never knew what that was. And that's where we help them connect the dots. And they say, gosh, I really like that idea. And it's interesting, Sherry. Some people come in, they say, I've got to be passionate about the industry. It's got to be something that, that I'm just passionate about. Others say, hey, I'll run a porta potty business if it pays me $1 million a year. I'm okay going to the cocktail party and being the porta potty king. And so everyone's got their own kind of mindset and approach. And so we try to customize to what they're looking for.
The great thing about all this, there are those that will hear this podcast and reach out to you, but you also have a book that talks about a lot of these things. Tell us a little bit about the book and what we can expect.
Absolutely. No, try to pack as much content into 90 pages as I can because no one likes to read a really long book. We've gotten amazing feedback over the last 2 years since it came out. It helps people fill in the gaps in understanding around franchising. It helps get the juices flowing, understanding the financial side, like we talked about, understanding the industries. I share some case studies in there. We talk about the legal framework, talk about franchising versus startups. What are the trade-offs there? Franchising versus entrepreneurship through acquisition, ETA. That's a common idea out there right now. People looking to buy a business, and we're talking about the pros and cons both ways. So yeah, the book Non-Food Franchising, more than happy to share a free downloadable version with all of your listeners, whether they want the audio version or the PDF. Just come out to our website, FranBridgeConsulting.com. That's FRAN, bridgeconsulting.com. Share your email address and we'll reach out with that. And also more than happy to jump on a call and talk through opportunities further with you as well. Again, entirely free to work with us, but if you would prefer to have the physical copy, you can go out to Amazon or any retailer and purchase it that way. All the proceeds go to Hope International, which is a great nonprofit that I personally have a big heart for. So multiple options to get the book.
You know that the podcast is called Play Big Faster. And what we want to know is how can entrepreneurs play big faster in the franchise game?
I think back to the book, The Purple Cow by Seth Godin. Don't go to the red ocean where all of the competition is playing. Go to the blue ocean. Do things different. Don't be afraid to be contrarian. And for me, that meant cutting out half the market. I don't focus on food franchises for multiple reasons I touched on earlier, but that cut out half the market. I'm not trying to be everything to everybody, but instead I said, hey, I want to be able to go really deep in the other half of the market and help educate people in what I call non-food franchising. That obviously our firm has grown significantly as a result of that decision, and we've been able to help more clients. But I've got so many clients that reach out and say, we don't want anything to do with food. We want to explore these other categories. So I'd say don't be afraid to be contrarian and to niche down, whatever that means within your industry.
John, thank you so much for joining us for the pod. And I know that you did give your website to someone who wanted to find out more about what you do. But if they wanted to maybe reach out to you on socials, what is the best way to catch up with you?
Yeah, on the different socials, I'd say we're growing our presence on YouTube, but LinkedIn would be the biggest one. We have a large following on there. I try to post content every day. So yeah, would love to connect on LinkedIn. And again, come out to our website, FranBridgeConsulting.com. Share your email address. We'll share the book and as well as a link to my calendar if you'd like to set up a time to talk further. Again, entirely free to work with us and would love to help your listeners.
Thanks for being on the pod.
Thanks, Sherry.
And for everyone else within the sound of my voice, play big faster.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Play Big Faster podcast. Want more entrepreneurial content?
I like this.
Make sure to subscribe for future episodes.
Already subscribed.
I just clicked on it.
Don't forget to like and leave a review. Share with a friend that needs this in their life.
I think you need this more than I.
Oh, and make sure to follow Cherie on IG at Cherie Speaks. And remember to play big faster.